The first Subaru Outback was basically just a lifted Subaru legacy. So you could say they outbacked the legacy. Now we have this, which is the Outback Wilderness, which is a lifted Outback. So you could say they outbacked the Outback. Try saying that 10 times fast. Outback, outbacked, 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 up. Welcome everyone to another episode of Eat, Sleep, Drive, where I am freezing my off in Colorado to show you the latest 2022 Subaru Outback Wilderness. This is their lifted and sort of light off-road model. So today we're going to be taking a look outside, inside. We're going to cram some stuff in the back and I'm going to show you how usable it is. But most importantly, we will then take it for a drive and see what it's like out on the road. What does everyone think of the looks of this thing? Post in the comments below. It's certainly got the plastic cladding that Subaru puts on basically all their models now, including the WRX. And it does have some tweaks from the standard Outback. You have a front and rear bumper that have been revised. It also has some optional skid trays that will be underneath the car, protecting your vital organs of the vehicle. You're seeing it here in Geyser Blue. Bit of an interesting color name. Most geysers I see are white because it's steam, but this is called Geyser Blue. And as far as the color goes, I think it looks great. The big news here is in the suspension. They've lifted this thing. It's an extra inch higher than the already pretty high up Outback, and it now has 9.5 inches of total ground clearance, which is pretty good for something of this class. It's riding on 17-inch wheels with Yokohama Geolandar AT tires, which is sort of a light off-road tire. And I do like that they're only 17-inch wheels and you get a good amount of sidewall with these pretty balloony tires. So better for off-road and also pretty good for ride quality. In the back, it's pretty standard Subaru Outback affair. You have a power lift gate and you also have some of these wilderness touches that you see all over the vehicle. There's gold touches, there's badging, there's places that it points to your tow hooks to make you look more legit. Under the hood, you have Subaru's most powerful offering for the Outback. It's a 2.4 liter turbocharged direct injected engine, and it makes pretty good power. 260 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque. Now, as you guys know, I love to throw bikes in the back of all these cars to show you how usable they are. But we're in Colorado, we have a Subaru. I figured why not a snowboard to show you. So let me show you how this works. Perfect. It's so much room. You could easily throw a bike back in here without taking the front tire off. It really rivals most CUVs or SUVs, to be honest. As always, if you enjoy the bike and now snowboard test, consider hitting the subscribe button so you don't miss future junk in the trunk. The interior continues the design language Subaru is doing for pretty much all their models. They've gone to this 11-inch touchscreen display in the center console, which overall is fine, but can be very frustrating to use at times. Specifically, things like the heated seats, which people tend to use a lot, are buried in a menu, making it very hard to access quickly. I would have much preferred physical buttons for something like this. You do at least get these physical buttons for HVAC, temperature controls, and volume and tuning knobs. The dash is wrapped in a leather-type material that makes it feel a little more appropriate for the price. The Wilderness also gets yellow stitching all over, including the seats. Speaking of those seats, they're very comfortable and the material is quite interesting. It seems to be made out of something that would make it quite easy to clean up a mess. Something you want in an adventure mobile. Of course, it comes with Subaru's standard safety suite, blind spot monitoring, adaptive cruise, lane centering, which we'll talk about in the drive. Now it's time for the fun part, the drive. I'm out here near Idaho Springs area in Colorado, and I've instantly taken us to a horrible road. Well, not a horrible road, but sort of a gravel, dirt, mixed surface road. Because the thing I really want to drive home with this car is what it is and what it isn't, and what it is very good at doing, which is light off-road trails and being extremely comfortable on those light off-road trails. If you were in a lot of cars, you would be getting bounced around like crazy right now. But you can thank a couple things for that. A, the fact that this is made by Subaru and it's their a little more off-roady Subaru, a company that is known for rallying. So they kind of know a thing or two about good suspensions. And also these bigger sidewall tires. These are 17-inch tires with nice big meaty sidewalls. These shocks are different from the Wilderness edition. As I mentioned before, they have a 1-inch lift, and it's not just a 1-inch lift, You may have heard before they call it a body lift, where the strut travel is the same, but they just raise up the body to make it higher up. Not the case with this car. The struts and everything have more travel, an inch more of travel. And it really shows when you get this thing onto an uneven road. I mean, I am going speeds that are not unsafe, but you know, a little bit aggressive for a crappy road like this. And it handles them so good. First and foremost, I really wanted to talk about this suspension because it's fantastic. And not just in back roads where you do realistically, a couple percent of your driving, 2-3% maybe for some people, maybe a little more for other people. But on the regular roads as well, the suspension is great. It does have some body movement to it, but it's well controlled, and the ride everywhere is so good. You don't have to slow down to get into curbs, or not curbs. I guess you don't have to slow down to get into curbs. You could just drive over a curb because this has 9.5 inches of ground clearance. But to get into embankments or sort of ramps going into the Whole Foods, you don't have to slow down. You just ram right into it. So much ground clearance with this thing. Super impressed. Moving on from the suspension, of course, the engine is quite important. 2.4 liter, 260 horsepower, but maybe more importantly, 277 pound-feet of torque. Really nice to have a turbocharged engine up here at altitude. We're at like 9,000 feet. You know, naturally aspirated engines tend to feel a little anemic once you start to get them up here higher, especially if they don't have a ton of power. But this thing is great. Now, I will say, one thing I don't love about it is there's kind of a lot of lag to it. And I think part of that is the built-in throttle response that they have, and then part of that is just turbocharger lag. But between putting your foot down and something happening, there's kind of a big delay. And maybe that's also partly the CVT transmission, because, you know, CVTs kind of be trying to sort out stuff. I don't mind the CVT in this car though. It's not like some of the worst CVTs on the planet that just make you really hate life. It doesn't drone too much. It kind of mimics gears sometimes here and there, which is welcome. And I think, once again, the powertrain, the engine, transmission, very stout. Another highlight for the car. One downside, though, to that being 2.4 liter turbo and all-wheel drive, full-time all-wheel drive, is that the fuel economy is not great. I admittedly got this car in Denver. Oh boy, this is quite a hairpin. Got this car in Denver. Oh, I should have turned traction control off. It's not letting me flick this thing in. Drove it directly up here, you know, so from 4,000 to 5,000 feet to 9,000 feet, which isn't great for fuel economy, but I'm averaging around just under 20 miles to the gallon as I look at my tank here. So it's not the best. And once again, you just full-time all-wheel drive, you kind of have that issue, unfortunately. And this is a bit of a thirsty engine, but it's kind of fun to ring out a little bit, you know what I mean? Beautiful view here, absolutely gorgeous. This road, I'm kind of going slow because it is pretty sketch, like high consequence. I think this Jeep bro is letting me go by. We'll give him a wave. Thank you very much, sir. What a legend. But yeah, I'm just taking it real easy here because there's some pretty big cliffs here. I don't know. Obviously, everything in video never does it justice, but once you actually get up here and then, get into ABS a little bit because there's ice and snow, it starts to get, a little bit sketchier, so you kind of slow it down. So suspension, great. Engine, gearbox, great. It's built pretty well. You might hear some rattling and stuff, but it's just my camera gear. I have camera gear, I have a snowboard, I have all kinds of crap in here. It doesn't rattle outside of that. Like the car itself, what I'm trying to say is it's well made. There's no squeaks or rattles. It seems to be pretty screwed together, and that's kind of a thing for most Subarus. As far as especially Japanese manufacturers go, it's pretty well built. I do really like this seat. It's extremely comfortable. It's extremely supportive. I like the material a lot. One thing that I don't love about this car though is the lane centering. So it comes with some safety features. Some people, I guess, call them safety features, like adaptive cruise control. Adaptive cruise control works great, love it. Has lane departure warning, which, okay, that's nice. You know, you want to make sure that, oh, this guy was turned in front of us. He's in a Subaru. But the lane centering, so the lane centering, the idea there is that it kind of, if it can pick up lanes in the road with the Subaru eyesight, it will kind of like try and keep you in them without too much steering input from you. And it really just kind of pogos between the lines. Any sort of real turn at all, even on the highway, that's when I've tried to use it, and it really ping pongs back and forth. So in the grand scheme of other manufacturers, I think other manufacturers do the lane centering a little better, but it's not a deal breaker for me personally because I really don't like lane centering. I think it kind of puts people to sleep at the wheel, and I find it just easier just to drive the car myself than it to pseudo drive me, because you just never know when you can count on it, right? Like whether it can pick up on lanes or not. The infotainment system is also not my favorite. I kind of mentioned that before when we did the interior review. It's just, I don't know. I don't like screens. They look cool. They're good for the wow factor, and I think that's why they put them in vehicles. People get in there like, wow, look at all this technology. And admittedly, it works pretty good, but I just would rather not have that, because I just think about if you're going to own this car long term, what this would be like to have to replace. And this is not just a Subaru problem. I'm not saying A, it's going to break, and B, this is only a Subaru problem. Everybody's putting massive screens in cars, but when it does break and everything is controlled through this screen, you're kind of screwed. So, ooh, look at, we have reached tarmac. This is such an interesting road. But yeah, I mean, this is a really cool car. I really dig it. It's not just a badge, you know what I mean? Like, Subaru actually went ahead and put a better suspension on this thing and changed the departure angles, and you know, it is a little more off-road capable. And as I'll show you here in a minute, I was in some really deep snow where I probably shouldn't have been, especially by myself, and this thing did remarkably well. So bravo, thank you so much, Subaru Wilderness, for not getting me stranded in the middle of nowhere, Colorado. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you made it this far, I really, really, really genuinely do appreciate watching it, because the more you watch the video, the longer you watch the video, the more the Subaru algorithm recommends it to other people. So thank you very much for that. Leave a comment, leave a like, and subscribe if you would like to as well. I will catch you guys on the next one. Well, here goes nothing, people. I've got myself in a bit of a pickle. I ended up going down a road that is very snow covered, and it has yet to be seen whether or not I will be able to get out of here. Like, no one has gone down this road. So we're gonna put the Subaru Wilderness along with these tires definitely to the test. I'm a little nervous, if I'm honest. If I get stuck back here, it's gonna be bad. I think I'm gonna have to carry some speed. Traction control is pretty annoying. This is deep. This is, I think, the hill that's potentially the scariest. Is very deep, and there is no steering here. can't stop for this. Oh, oh. Is this a paved road? I do believe it is. Oh, thank goodness. I did not want to get stuck out here. Pucker moment.